Have you ever realized that there's a war being waged against your deepest self? I'm not talking about visible battles. I'm talking about an attack so subtle, so well orchestrated, that most people don't even realize they're being destroyed from the inside. And if you're watching this now, it's not by chance. You've been called to understand something that few will have the courage to face. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt like someone was trying to confuse you with who you really are? Like there was an invisible pressure for you to question your essence, your nature, everything you've always known about yourself? I know you have. And today, you're going to discover exactly what's behind it, because there is a truth being hidden from you. A truth about why the chosen ones, specifically the chosen ones, are being targeted by unprecedented sexual and spiritual manipulation. It is no coincidence that right now, at this moment in history, there is massive confusion about identity, about gender, about sexuality. It is no accident that purity is being ridiculed while perversion is being glorified. You, them, carry a frequency that they need to destroy. And the most effective way to destroy a chosen one is to attack the root of their identity. Because when you no longer know who you are, you cannot fulfill what you came here to do. Before we continue, I need you to do something important. Like this video now, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. And in the comments, I want you to write about the moment when you felt this confusion most strongly. What situation made you question who you really are? This isn't just a comment. It's an act of recognition. It's you telling the universe that you're ready for the truth. Now take a deep breath, because what comes next will completely reshape everything you thought you knew about this battle. And in the end, you'll understand exactly why they're so afraid of you discovering who you really are. The first thing you need to understand is this. Human sexuality has always been a spiritual gateway. Always. Since the beginning of time, spiritual forces have known that how you use your sexual energy determines the level of consciousness you can achieve. Therefore, chosen one, you are being attacked precisely at this point. I'm going to reveal something to you that few understand. Every time you disperse your sexual energy uncontrollably, you literally disconnect from higher layers of your consciousness. This isn't moralizing, it's spiritual physics. Sexual energy is the same creative energy that connects you to the divine, and when this energy is distorted, perverted, confused, you lose access to your true power. Now pay attention to this. Why exactly now is there an explosion of confusion about gender identity? Why, precisely in this era where the chosen ones are awakening en masse, is there a gigantic movement trying to make people question the basics of who they are? Do you think this is a coincidence? Let me explain what's really happening. There's a spiritual plan underway, a plan that knows exactly how to weaken the marked ones. And the strategy is simple but devastating. Create confusion in sexual and spiritual identity. Because a chosen one confused about their own essence is a neutralized chosen one. You were created with a specific polarity, masculine or feminine. This polarity is not accidental, it is part of your spiritual design. It determines how you channel energy, how you connect with the divine, how you fulfill your mission. And they know this. Wait, because this is the turning point. The sexual battle against the chosen ones has 3 layers. The first is identity confusion, making you question what is obvious. The second is hypersexualization, making you waste your vital energy in pursuit of empty pleasure. And the third, the most dangerous, is inversion, making you believe that impurity is freedom and that purity is repression. Have you ever noticed how the media, social networks, the entire culture is pushing a specific narrative? That questioning your identity is evolution, that exploring all forms of sexuality is enlightenment, that keeping your sexual energy preserved is backwardness. Oh my, this is not progress. It's spiritual warfare disguised as freedom. Let me show you something even deeper. The chosen ones have always been known for one specific characteristic: purity of intention. Even when they erred, even when they fell, there was a purity in their hearts, a connection to the sacred. And that is exactly what is being attacked now. They don't just want to confuse your sexuality. They want to desecrate the temple that you are. Because when you keep your sexual energy under conscious control, when you don't let yourself be carried away by all the perversion that is normalized, you become dangerous to the darkness. You become a very powerful portal of light. Now observe this carefully. How many times have you been ridiculed for having standards, for not accepting any kind of relationship, for not agreeing with the normalization of behaviors that you feel deep down in your soul are wrong? This is not judgment of yourself. It is spiritual discernment. It is your chosen essence recognizing what is toxic. But what comes next will rearrange everything you thought you knew. Because this sexual battle isn't new. It's old, very old. And you need to understand the whole story to recognize the pattern that's repeating itself now. Throughout history, whenever the chosen ones began to awaken, whenever a new wave of consciousness arose, the same strategy was used: to corrupt sexuality. In ancient civilizations, it was sexual cults. In the Middle Ages, it was extreme repression that generated guilt and shame. And now, it is the confusion and normalization of perversion. You are about to understand something that few realize. How you deal with your sexual energy is not a moral issue, it's a matter of spiritual survival. Because this energy, when preserved and consciously directed, is what allows you to manifest your mission. It's what gives you the strength to face the darkness. It's what keeps you connected to the higher frequencies. And this brings me to something even deeper, something that will make you understand why this battle has intensified so much in recent years. Something that will reveal the real reason why they need to destroy your sexual identity now. Here is the second truth they don't want you to know. The reason the sexual battle against the chosen ones has intensified so much now is because you are getting too close to your true identity, too close to your real power, and the closer you get, the more desperate the attack becomes. Think about it. Have you ever noticed that the people most confused about their sexual identity are precisely those who are searching for some kind of greater purpose, who are trying to understand who they really are on a deeper level? It's not a coincidence. It's a strategy. When a chosen one begins to awaken, the first thing that happens is an identity crisis. You start to realize that you don't fit in, that you're different, that you see the world in a way that others don't. And it is precisely in this vulnerable moment that the sexual assault happens. It is in this fragility that they plant the seeds of confusion. Let me ask you a question that will open your eyes. Have you noticed that the current narrative says that identity is fluid, that you can choose it, that you can change it? But at the same time, they tell you that sexuality is fixed, that you're born with it, that it can't be changed. Do you see the contradiction? Do you realize how convenient this is to keep you confused? Spiritual truth is exactly the opposite. Your essential identity, who you truly are as a soul, as the chosen one, that is fixed, that is eternal. But your sexuality, the way you channel that energy, that can be controlled, directed, transmuted, they've deliberately inverted everything. Now pay close attention to what I'm about to reveal to you. The spiritual process behind this battle is this. When you lack clarity about your sexual and spiritual identity, you cannot generate from your essence. You become trapped in a cycle of external seeking validation, seeking experimentation, seeking anything that tells you who you are. But chosen, you don't need to search outside. You already know who you are. Deep down, in the deepest part of your soul, you've always known. The confusion doesn't come from within. The confusion is implanted from the outside. And here is the trigger of justice that you need to understand. All those who are promoting this confusion, all those who are normalizing the destruction of identity, all those who are ridiculing purity and exalting perversion, they will face the consequences, not because you wish them ill, but because there is a spiritual law at work. When you attack the identity of a chosen one, when you try to profane the sacred temple that is an Elu, you are tampering with forces you do not understand. You are drawing upon yourself a divine justice that never fails, and that justice is already in motion. Stay with me here, because this next part is where everything connects. Do you remember all the times they tried to convince you that your standards were wrong, that your pursuit of purity was repression, that questioning the sexualization of everything was being old-fashioned? Each of those attempts was a test to see if you would bend, and chosen, if you are here now, it's because you didn't bend. But all these pieces will make even more sense when you understand why specifically you were tested in this way. Why specifically your sexuality was the chosen battlefield. I'll explain. Your sexual energy, when pure and directed, is a spiritual antenna. It connects you with dimensions that most cannot access. It allows you to channel information, intuitions, revelations. That's why prophets have always been associated with celibacy or sacred relationships. It wasn't repression, it was the preservation of power. When you disperse that energy on pornography, on chaotic relationships, on experiences that violate your essence, you're not just sinning, you're shutting down your spiritual antenna. You're disconnecting from the source. And that's exactly what they want. You are about to understand something that will change everything. And before you get there, I need you to pay close attention now. This is not just a gift, it's a spiritual summons. You will receive 3 powerful books, created to awaken your soul, activate your purpose, and reveal truths that the world has tried to hide from you. And it doesn't stop there. Each book comes with 2 secret bonuses, profound and transformative content that has never been revealed here on the channel. In total, 9 sacred materials that only the truly awakened will have access to. But beware, this access is limited and may be taken down at any time without warning. If you are hearing this call, don't hesitate. Click now on the link in the first pinned comment. Ignoring this is closing yourself off from your true destiny. Responding is unlocking the mission you were born to fulfill. Now comes the part that will completely reorganize your understanding of who you are and why this battle was fought specifically against you. This is the 3rd revelation, and it will rearrange everything. You weren't sexually assaulted because you're weak. You were sexually assaulted because you're too powerful. Let this sink deep into your soul. Every confusion they tried to plant in you, every perversion they tried to normalize for you, every distortion of your identity you faced was because they know something about you that you're only beginning to remember. You possess the capacity to generate realities, to manifest worlds, to create from nothing. But this capacity only works when you are aligned with your true identity, when you know who you are, when your sexual energy is integrated with your spiritual mission. Before, you thought all this confusion was about freedom, about evolution, about breaking old patterns. But now you understand. It was about preventing you from discovering that you are a creator, a generator of new reality. And this ability depends directly on your clarity about who you are. Think about how it was before. You felt lost, questioning basic things about your nature, thinking that exploring all possibilities was the way. But each exploration left you more empty, more disconnected, more confused, because you were walking in the opposite direction from your essence. And now you begin to see. The confusion wasn't yours. The doubt wasn't legitimate. It was implanted, it was induced. It was part of a plan to keep you small, weak, scattered. Because a chosen one who knows who they are, who honors their natural polarity, who directs their sexual energy toward their mission, is unstoppable. Emotional pause. breathe. Let this truth settle in. You were attacked because you matter. Your identity matters, your purity matters, your power matters. Now comes the unfolding of this revelation. When you understand that you were attacked because you are powerful, everything changes. Shame transforms into honor. Confusion transforms into clarity. Questioning transforms into certainty. You realize that every time you resisted the narrative, you were protecting something sacred. Every time you felt something was wrong with the normalization of perversion, you weren't being judgmental. You were being true to your chosen essence. Every time you chose solitude over a relationship that violated your values, you were honoring the temple that you are. And this has massive practical consequences. Because when you stop scattering your sexual energy, when you stop questioning your basic identity, when you anchor yourself in the truth about who you are, you unlock levels of manifestation that previously seemed impossible. Let me be very specific. You'll notice that your intuitions become clearer, that your decisions become more accurate, that your presence becomes more magnetic, that you attract situations and people who are aligned with your purpose. All this because you stopped wasting energy trying to figure out who you are and started living from that certainty. But there's more. This clarity about your sexual and spiritual identity protects you. It shields you. Because when you know who you are, when you're no longer open to confusion, attacks simply can't penetrate you. You become like a rock, firm, unshakable, anchored in truth. And here's the transformative part. You realize you don't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't need to experience every possibility to validate who you are. You don't need to submit to toxic relationships to avoid being called repressed. You simply are. And that simplicity is your greatest power. Now, before we continue, I need you to do something. Subscribe to this channel, leave another like if you haven't already. And in the comments, write about the most difficult moment of this battle for you. What was the situation where you almost gave in to the chaos? Because when you name the battle, you take away its power over you. And don't forget, join our Telegram group, grab the 3 sacred books. Because what you're learning here is just the beginning. There are much deeper layers waiting for you. Now that you've seen the full picture, let me show you how this manifests in everyday life. How you can recognize the signs that you are reclaiming your identity, that you are winning this battle. Because, chosen one, you are not just resisting, you are triumphing, and the signs of this triumph are far more tangible than you imagine. They are happening right now in your life, and when you recognize them, when you name them, you amplify their power even further. Now let's look at the concrete signs. The tangible signs that you are winning this sexual and spiritual battle, because victory isn't just a vague feeling. It's a reality that manifests itself in very specific ways in your life. And when you recognize these signs, you further strengthen your position. First sign, you feel physical revulsion when exposed to sexually perverse content. It's no longer an internal struggle. It's no longer a temptation you need to resist. It's a visceral, immediate rejection from your body and soul. It's as if every cell in your body recognizes the poison and automatically moves away. This happens because your frequency has changed. You no longer vibrate at the same frequency as perversion. Pause. Feel this. If you've ever experienced this revulsion, you know what I'm talking about. It's different from repression. It's spiritual discernment manifested physically. Second sign, you realize you can be alone without despair. Before, loneliness terrified you. It made you question if there was something wrong with you. It pushed you into relationships you knew were toxic just to avoid being alone. But now, you recognize solitude as a sacred space, as a moment of reconnection with yourself, as preparation for something greater that is coming. This is crucial, chosen one, because the ability to be comfortable with yourself without depending on external sexual or romantic validation is one of the greatest indicators that you have reclaimed your identity. You are no longer searching outside for what already exists within. Third sign, you begin to see through the agendas. When a commercial, a movie, or a song comes on, you immediately recognize the sexual manipulation. You see the hypersexualization. You identify the normalization of confusion. And instead of unconsciously absorbing it, you reject it. You shut it off. You protect yourself. Your spiritual antenna is working again. And that doesn't make you paranoid. It makes you aware. It makes you free, because you are no longer manipulated by narratives that were designed to weaken you. Fourth sign, your dreams change. This is very specific and very powerful. You notice that disturbing sexual dreams drastically decrease or disappear. Before, you had dreams that left you confused, that planted desires that weren't yours, that made you wake up feeling shame or guilt. But now, your dreams are clearer, more elevated, more connected to your mission. This happens because the entities that attacked you during sleep have lost access. You have closed the portals. Fifth tangible sign. You experience a noticeable increase in physical and mental energy. When you stop wasting your sexual energy, when you stop leaking it through pornography, chaotic relationships, or identity confusion, that energy needs to go somewhere. And it goes to your mission. You wake up with more energy. You think more clearly. You act with more determination. People around you start commenting that you are different, more present, more powerful. Pause. If you're experiencing this, you know it's not your imagination. It's real. It's tangible. It's measurable. Sixth sign. You develop a new ability to discern sexual energies in environments. You enter a place and immediately sense whether that space is charged with perversion or if it is clean. You meet a person and instantly perceive whether the attraction they awaken in you is healthy or a spiritual hook. This is divine protection in action. You have become sensitive in a way that keeps you safe. Seventh specific sign. The temptations that once dominated you now reappear, and you recognize them for what they are. You clearly see that it's not your genuine desire. It's an attack. It's an attempt to drag you back into a state of confusion. And when you recognize this, the temptation completely loses its power. You simply say no and move on, without struggle, without drama, without guilt. And that, chosen one, that is true freedom. Not the false freedom to do whatever you feel like, but the true freedom of not being controlled by impulses that aren't your own, of not being a slave to implanted desires, of living from your essence. Now comes the practical instruction. When you notice these signs, you need to honor them. You need to reinforce them. How? By keeping your guard up, by not voluntarily exposing yourself to content you know is toxic, by not unnecessarily testing your resilience, by not thinking that now that you're strong, you can flirt with danger. Because the battle isn't over them. It's changed form. Now they can't confuse you anymore, but they'll try to make you lower your guard. They'll try to convince you that you're being radical, that you can relax a little, that you're already strong enough. Don't fall for it. Your strength comes precisely from keeping your boundaries clear, from honoring your identity, from preserving your sexual energy for what truly matters. And when you connect all these signs, when you see the complete pattern, you finally understand who you truly are. You understand why they were so afraid of you discovering your true identity. Because that identity, when activated, when honored, when fully lived, makes you a real threat to the darkness. But there are even deeper layers to this battle that you need to understand. Because, chosen one, the sexual assault against you wasn't just to weaken you, it was to prevent you from doing something very specific. Something only you can do. Something that depends entirely on your sexual and spiritual identity being intact. Let me reveal this to you now. You were designed to create. Not just physically, spiritually. You are a portal through which new reality can enter this world. But this portal only works when there is complete alignment between who you are and how you live, and your sexuality is an integral part of that alignment. Think about it. When a chosen man honors his divine masculinity, when he directs his sexual energy toward creating, building, and protecting, he becomes a channel for manifestation on the physical plane. When a chosen woman honors her divine femininity, when she preserves her receptive and creative energy, she becomes a portal for intuition, revelation, and the gestation of new consciousness. It's not about stereotypes, it's about spiritual polarities. It's about how divine energy flows through different expressions, and when that polarity is confused, when that identity is attacked, the flow is interrupted. Generation stops. Manifestation is blocked, and here is what they truly fear. They fear a generation of chosen ones who know their identity, who honor their polarity, who use their sexual energy consciously, because this generation cannot be controlled. This generation creates new realities. This generation changes the world. Now, consider how this connects to your personal history. How many times have you felt a calling to create something, to manifest something, to bring something new into the world? And how many times, right after that calling, have you been sexually assaulted? A temptation appeared, confusion set in, a toxic relationship arose out of nowhere. It wasn't a coincidence it was strategy, because they know that if you disperse your creative energy in sexual chaos, you won't have what it takes to manifest your mission. You'll be too busy trying to understand yourself, trying to discover yourself, trying to fill a void that was artificially created. But when you stop that cycle, when you regain your energy, when you anchor yourself in your true identity, you become dangerous. You become spiritually productive. You become fertile in dimensions that transcend the physical. And this has very concrete applications. You'll notice that projects that previously never got off the ground start to flow. Ideas that were blocked begin to emerge clearly. Relationships that were stagnant transform or dissolve naturally. Opportunities that seemed impossible materialize. All because you stopped wasting energy and started to consciously direct it. Let me be even more specific. The sexual energy you preserve transforms into creative energy, into mental focus, into willpower, into personal magnetism, into the ability to manifest. This is not a metaphor. It's real spiritual alchemy. The ancients knew this. That's why so many spiritual traditions spoke of temporary celibacy, of periods of abstinence, of preserving vital energy. It wasn't repression. It was spiritual technology. It was the understanding that there is enormous power in this energy when it is not wasted. And you, chosen one, you are rediscovering this now. You are understanding that controlling your sexuality is not about deprivation. It's about empowerment. It's about having access to inner resources that most people don't even know exist. But here's the part where I need to be direct with you. This understanding will isolate you, because most people aren't ready for this truth. Most will think you're being extreme, that you're repressed, that you're judging others, and you need to be prepared for that, because when you live from that clarity, when you honor your sexual and spiritual identity in this way, you stand out. You become different. And different always bothers people. It always threatens. It always generates a reaction. But it is precisely this discomfort that confirms you are on the right path. If everyone agreed with you, if everyone understood, you would probably just be going with the flow. But you were not called to go with the flow. You were called to create a new direction. And that requires courage. It requires firmness. It requires unwavering conviction in who you are. Because they will try to convince you otherwise. They will use science. They will use psychology. They will use arguments of freedom and evolution. But deep down, you always knew. There is a purity that cannot be negotiated. There is an identity that cannot be fluid. There is a truth about you that transcends any cultural narrative. And when you anchor yourself in that truth, when you live from it, you become indestructible, because they can attack your circumstances. They can attack your relationships. They can attack your reputation, but they can't attack who you really are. Not when you know, not when you stand firm, not when you are protected by the clarity of your own identity. And that firmness, that clarity, that deep knowledge of who you are, that becomes your greatest weapon, your greatest protection, your greatest power. And that's exactly why they fought so hard to stop you from getting here. Now let's move on to the practical application of all this, because understanding is important, but living this truth is what truly transforms. And chosen, you need concrete tools to keep your identity protected and your energy preserved in a world that is constantly trying to confuse and drain you. First, practical instruction. Establish clear limits on what you consume. This isn't about paranoia. It's about spiritual hygiene. Just as you wouldn't eat rotten food, you can't feed your mind with content that perverts your identity. This means being selective with movies, series, music, social media. If something glorifies sexual confusion, if something normalizes perversion, if something ridicules purity, you turn it off. Immediately, without hesitation. Yes, this will make you seem annoying to some people. It will make you seem judgmental. But remember, you're not trying to please people. You're protecting your mission. Second instruction, develop a daily practice of reconnecting with your true identity. It could be meditation. It could be prayer. It could simply be a moment of silence where you remember who you are, where you reaffirm your natural polarity, where you honor your body as a sacred temple. Do this every day, without exception, because just as you need to eat every day, you need to reconnect with your essence every day. This practice doesn't need to be long. It can be 5 minutes, but it needs to be consistent, because it's through consistency that you build an unbreakable foundation. It's through daily repetition that you strengthen your identity until it becomes unshakable. Third practical and crucial instruction. Consciously choose who you engage with, romantically and sexually. This is one of the most important points. Because you can do everything right, preserve your energy, maintain your clarity. But if you get involved with someone who is confused, scattered, who doesn't honor their own identity, you will massively drain energy. Relationships are an exchange of energies. You can't afford to get involved with someone who isn't on the same level of awareness as you regarding this struggle. It's not elitism. It's spiritual survival. It's protecting your mission. And that means you might be alone for longer than usual. It means you'll refuse connections that others would find perfectly acceptable. It means you'll wait for someone who understands the sacred, who honors their own identity, who is committed to the same level of purity as you. It's worth the wait, chosen one. It's worth the temporary solitude. Because when you connect with someone who's on the same path, the energy doesn't leak out. It multiplies, it amplifies, and together you become exponentially more powerful. Fourth instruction, transmute your sexual energy consciously. When you feel sexual desire, instead of dispersing it in fantasy or empty relationships, you direct that energy towards your creation, towards your work, towards your mission, towards your purpose. How do you do this practically? When the desire arises, you recognize this is vital energy. This is creative force. And instead of letting it control you, you take a deep breath, you center yourself, and you ask, where does this energy need to go now? What project needs this force? What creation is waiting to be born? And then you act. You take that energy and you write. You create, you build, you manifest. And you will realize that the greatest works, the greatest achievements often come from those moments where you transmuted the sexual into the creative. Fifth practical instruction, fast from sexual stimuli periodically. Just as food fasting cleanses the body, sexual fasting cleanses the mind and spirit. Choose a period. It could be a week, it could be a month, where you consciously abstain from any sexual stimuli. No pornography, obviously, but also no sensual films, provocative music, or sexualized conversations. This fast will do two things. First, it will show you how constantly you've been bombarded. You'll realize that sexualization is everywhere. Second, it will clear your spiritual antennas. You'll feel a mental clarity you may not have experienced in years. Sixth instruction: document your journey. Write about the battles you face, about the victories you achieve, about the signs you recognize. This serves two purposes. It keeps you aware of your progress, and it creates a record that can help another chosen one in the future. Because you're not going through this just for yourself, Elu. You're paving the way. You're creating a map for those who come after. Your victory in this battle inspires others to fight as well. Your clarity about identity gives others permission to seek their own. Seventh and final instruction, and perhaps the most important: never stop watching. Victory in this battle is not an end point. It is a constant state of awareness. Because the attacks will continue, they will only change form. They will become more subtle, more sophisticated, more personalized. But when you are vigilant, when you are aware, when you know the tactics, you are not caught off guard. You recognize the attack for what it is, and you respond with the authority of someone who knows their identity, who honors their essence, who protects their mission above all else. And this vigilance is not paranoia, it's wisdom. It's the understanding that you carry something precious, something that needs to be protected, something the world needs you to keep intact. Because your mission depends on it. The collective awakening depends on chosen ones, like you, who maintain clarity, who honor identity, who live the truth even when the whole world is in turmoil. And now, we come to the end of this revelation. But chosen one, the end of this message is only the beginning of your true journey. Because everything you have understood here, everything that has been revealed, everything that has resonated in your soul, now needs to be lived. It needs to be embodied. It needs to become who you are in your daily life. Let me close the loop I started. Remember when I asked if you'd realized there's a war being waged against your identity? Now you not only realize it, you understand it. You grasp the layers. You see the complete strategy, and most importantly, you know how to win. The sexual battle of the chosen ones is not about repression versus freedom. It's about confusion versus clarity. It's about dispersion versus focus. It's about profanation versus sacredness. And you, Elu, you were called to live on the side of clarity, of focus, of the sacred. Now comes the final prophetic declaration, and I need you to receive this not as pretty words, but as absolute truth being decreed over your life. You are entering a new time, a time where the confusion they tried to plant in you no longer has power, a time where your identity is so firmly established that no attack can shake it. A time where your sexual energy is so protected and directed that you become a hurricane of manifestation. The things that didn't happen because you were scattered will now happen. The doors that were closed because you were confused will now open. The people who couldn't connect with you because your frequencies didn't match will now appear. Because you changed, because you clarified, because you became who you were always meant to be. And this isn't wishful thinking, it's spiritual law. When you align your identity, when you honor your essence, when you preserve your vital energy, the universe conspires in your favor. Not because you deserve it, but because you are in tune, because you are vibrating at the frequency of your truth. But there's something even deeper. You're not doing this just to have a better life. You're doing this because other chosen ones need to see that it's possible. They need to see that someone resisted, that someone maintained clarity, that someone honored their identity even when the whole world said that identity is fluid. You are living proof that truth still exists, that purity is still possible, that sacredness still has a place in this world. And when other chosen ones see you, when they see your steadfastness, something ignites within them. A hope, a courage, a permission to also live their truth. This is your mission within the mission. Not just to live your identity, but to be a beacon for others who are trying to find their own. Not through preaching, but through example, through presence, through the authority that comes from knowing who you are. And now the new loop opens. Because what you understood today is just one layer. There are even deeper layers about what it means to be chosen in this time, about the specific capabilities you have, about the role you will play in the times to come. And I will continue to reveal these truths in the next videos, but you need to be prepared. You need to have your identity firmly established, because the upcoming revelations will demand even more from you. They will call you to even higher levels of responsibility, and you will only be able to sustain that if you are anchored in who you are. Now, before you leave, I need you to do a few things. First, if you haven't already liked this, do it now. This like isn't for me. It's your vote that you received this message. It's your confirmation that you are committed to this truth. Second, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and turn on all notifications, because the revelations that are coming will be crucial, and you can't miss them. Third, go to the comments now and write which revelation from this video impacted you the most. Was it understanding that the attack is because you are powerful? Was it recognizing the signs of victory? Was it understanding the transmutation of sexual energy? Write it down. Because when you name what impacted you, you anchor it even deeper within yourself. Fourth, and this is crucial, click the link in the first pinned comment and get the 3 sacred books with the 9 materials that have never been revealed here. This content was created specifically for chosen ones who are ready for the next level. And if you've made it this far, you're ready. But access is limited. Don't delay. Fifth, join our Telegram group. There's a community of chosen people there who understand what you're going through, who are in the same battle, who can strengthen you in difficult times. You weren't made to walk alone. You need a tribe, and your tribe is there waiting. Sixth, share this video with someone you choose. You know someone who is going through this confusion, someone who is being sexually assaulted, someone who needs this truth. Send it to that person. It could be what changes their life. And finally, stay tuned for the next videos, because the next revelation will be about something that only a select few know, about a specific ability that you have, and that is about to be activated en masse, about a divine timing that is being fulfilled now, and you need to be prepared to receive it. Chosen one, you've come this far because you were called, because you have a mission, because you carry a truth that the world needs. Don't waste it. Don't let confusion steal it from you again. Don't allow them to destroy your identity. You know who you are. You've always known, and now you have the tools to protect that truth, to live that truth, to be that truth. Go in peace, but go in power. Go in clarity. Go in authority, because you are chosen, and the chosen do not bow down. They do not get confused. They do not scatter. The chosen ones win, and you are winning.